Okay. That was good for my phone. All right, there's that. This is when you want like 3 phones and a tech assistant. Oh, there she is. Okay. We're still missing that. Okay. So as we were, very good. We're still down 1. All right.
Oh my goodness.
Yay! Hello.
I'm so sorry. That was really painful.
It's okay. It's okay. We'll make you do 10 push-ups at the end of class. It probably wasn't your fault. I don't know what happened, but we're all together now, but we're still missing the net. So let's go over what you guys sent me. And I know some people didn't send me things, and that's fine. No judgment. But I do think it's cool to see everybody's results. And you guys saw mine because I shared it with you. And I also shared it. I shared it on Facebook, I think. So, and I have it here. I have it right here. And we're going to work on the same thing. So, one of the things that I think is cool, and this could be something that you guys think about too, is that maybe, and I know Bonnie did like exactly what I did, where she used black and white. And one of the things that I have to say about using black and white is that based on like my personal art experience, is that I've been a black and white photographer for most of my life, right? So there's a little bit of like comfort in working with black and white because I just know a lot about it, right? And I feel like I know, I'm very familiar with how to make it look good compositionally, and I just kind of know my way around the map, right? So the other thing about black and white encaustic is that you can eventually at any point color shift it, right? At any point, I mean, the black is gonna be harder. You could make it like blue or purple, but the white for sure is very easy to manipulate with color, right? So you can add almost any color to white and continue to add color until you're happy. And we can talk about that today. So we're gonna add translucent color layers, which just mean basically the opposite of what we did last week, where we worked with opaque layers. And then we kind of like did an archaeological dig, right? To sort of remember to literally find the photo, or to kind of like create some style, design, and sort of what I call encaustic art, you know, magic, whatever you want to call it, too, that we were happy with. Okay. The other thing, which is sort of a little bit harder for us virtually, is that if you guys were here in my studio, I would really be talking to you a lot about texture, right? I would be really talking to you not only about how it looks to your eye, but literally also how it feels, right? And of course, how it looks to your eye in terms of texture, but also like, what does it feel like? Like, how does it feel? And I personally, I just like my pieces to look textured and feel smooth, right? So that they are like flat. Now you guys, like next week, when we meet Thursday morning, we could try, like, you want, I can do we can do really bumpy stuff, right? We could even talk about like building layers, right? We could talk about how to really create depth. But basically for what I did last week and what I'm going to do today, I'm still primarily going to be thinking about things that look textured but feel smooth. And the reason that the encaustic can do this is because of, I think, because of the fusing, right? And the scraping back. Okay, so it's the ability of these two separate layers to sort of be heated up and like compressed together, right? And then the ability to flatten them out, right? With this technique called scraping, right? And smoothing, okay? Now, every artist has also what I call like personal preference of sort of how they like to spend their time or what techniques feel the most comfortable to you, right? So like some people might like brushing. I know encaustic artists who just love fusing, like they just love, like, right? They're like just love to melt and fuse. And then some people like to scrape, right? And maybe you like all of the above, right? And then of course you're going to have like the mood factor, like you're going to be stressed out or in a bad mood or had lots of traffic, and you might come home and really want to scrape some pieces. Right? So to me, or really draw in them, right? And this is again another reason that I just find that encaustic just sort of answers all of my artistic needs because of the sort of what I call like shape shifting or even gear changing of how I can work on it. So let me quick do a screen share, and I'm gonna go to the Google album. So I made us a Google album of just work that you guys sent me this week. So let's take a look at that. And I was pretty happy with everything that you guys sent me. I feel like you should be too. I think this is just a straight image. This is Pam's just straight image. All right. So Candace, these are yours. And this one doesn't have any wax on it yet, right?
No.
Okay. So let's not talk about that one right this second. But this one does.
Cool.
Right?
That just, I had, yes, it has some wax on it. I put some texture on it before I did anything to it.
Okay. So it just has wax medium on it and a little bit of pigment stick, or it has white encaustic paint on it?
No, that was actually the photograph. When I printed it, it came out with a blue cast to it.
Okay. And then this is just wax medium over.
And that's just, yes. And
Okay.
I used a stencil when I did that.
Okay. Whose is this?
Mine.
Okay.
Deborah.
Hi, Deb. So go ahead. Let's talk about this one. Candace, I'm not rushed. I just want to talk about the ones that are layered, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So go, Deb, tell us about this one. So you used, it looked like you followed my formula.
I did. I loved your black and white. So I did the photograph, and then I put down on one half white and the other half black, and then I repeated, and I did a stencil on each one.
Yeah, I see the stencil there.
Yeah, I also did one on the top, but it didn't come out. I mean, I scraped most of it out.
Yeah, I see it here. Yeah. But I love that. I love the ghosty parts of the stencils, and I love when the stencil doesn't look totally intact. I think it just is more artistic and more creative. And it kind of just, again, like has that feeling of like things shape moving levels, like perspective, like the buildings are coming forward to me, and then the bottom part is coming forward more as if it's like a road or like an inviting space leading up to it, and then the top part is going back, right? And then one of my suggestions would be exactly what we're going to do today, which would be to sort of like maybe tone or half tone the top to make it go back further, and then maybe lighten or warm up the bottom to make, so right, so you're pushing one back, you have like a horizon line, and then you're pulling one forward. So you create a sense of dimension, right? On the surface. So I think what's beautiful is sort of these shapes and textures that this layering and scraping back gives us. But then I think we need to tweak it, right? In terms of kind of really having three-dimensional form and sort of making sense, right? Sort of like making some type of like art sense where it has a true composition that leads you in, takes you to a subject matter, right? And then takes you out. But I love it. Are you happy? How do you feel about it?
Oh yeah, I like it. I mean, there's some areas where the you know, I wanted to do more with it, but yeah, I know I do like it.
I think it's really good. I like that the sky, I mean, it would be interesting to make another one, right?
Mhm.
Same photo and then just flip them. And that's like, yeah, flip them, flip the black, white, like just flip them. And that's
Yeah.
really, I think I've mentioned to you guys this before, but that's really one, I think, of my go-to techniques that I find very important to my art making process is that I do the same photo, I paint the same photo more than one time, right? And I also sort of do, I always think of myself as sort of like following a musician's practice techniques, right? I grew up with a lot of musicians. Like my dad was a violinist. I played the viola. All my friends were in the youth orchestra. Like I was never as good at music as I wanted to be, but, or some of my friends were, but I always remember practicing large pieces in small portions and practicing like the hardest like part over and over and over again, right? Because like I think in every like long concerto or anything there was like sort of easy, more melody parts that kind of flowed, and then there were like those really intense transition parts, right? So the intense hard parts we practiced like repetitively, right? And then you could kind of rely on the melody and then kind of get those things to link together. And I see encaustic painting a little bit like that, where like the more you practice with an idea, so the idea is that row of buildings, right?
Right.
And then, right, then you have the sky, you have the two other sections of the piece. Like, what are you going to do with those two spaces, right? And you can sort of work those out as the challenges, and practice them. Make a couple copies of it. Okay, who did the bouquet?
Sherry.
Sherry. I actually really love this piece. So, and I'm going to say something about this that I was also going to say about Deb's, and that is, I think it's really like close and it's getting somewhere, but what do you think it needs? Something's missing.
Well, I added some more color to it in the border on the outside, which I didn't take a picture of. I just did that the other day. So I brought some more pinks and blues and subtle tones around the edges. I'm thinking of scraping it down, so to get rid of some of the texture, and then putting a clear coat on top, which would diffuse it more.
Okay, so what I was going to say that I think scraping back, I think that it's missing. I think it's missing what I call that push and pull. And with flowers, I like to feel like, and even with figures, and I like to feel like one tiny part of the flower is sort of like photographic, and then another part of it is covered with wax, so that there's kind of like, and this is sort of challenging, but maybe there's like a nick or a way, like especially in the yellow flowers and these two pink flowers and your greens, where it's, you've added to a point that everything is plateaued. It plateaued. And it's beautiful. Like, it's not that it's not beautiful and good. It's not that. It's just that how can we get that plateau to have a more interesting, like, conversation with us, right? How can we get a plateau to be more engaging, right? One of the things is taking away a little bit of wax and bringing back the photo underneath. Another way is to try to really push and pull the wax to have what I call highlights and shadows, right? So I always, my stupid joke, right, that is like, nothing is all one color except a stop sign. And then I like always giggle, right? But when you think about a stop sign, you just think about it as being like a flat, all red toned thing, right? It doesn't have a highlight. It doesn't have a shadow. It's flat. It's in your face. So the flowers, you don't want them to feel like that. You want to feel like they're like glimmering, glistening lights hitting them, right? That they're like, have little teeny like seeds or tiny little stems inside the center. Like there's action and life within each one. So like this pink area, like a tiny little bit of light pink, right? And then even a color that you might not think of, like a shading color, like a really dark red, you know, something here too in the yellows, like a little bit more light yellow here, maybe even a little bit of green on the yellow, right? Because what happens too in reality is like when I even look out my window right now, like it's pretty much all green, but it's not like one color green. It's like green and yellow, green and brown, green and white, green and blue, dark green and black, right? Gray and green, right? So we're just talking about some leaves, but there's so many like sort of colors within any one thing based on our light, like the beauty of light. So like the best flower for me of all of these flowers in this arrangement is this orange one right here. Do you agree?
Right.
Is that your favorite one?
Uh,
And what I like about it is I can go like inside of it. I feel like I can go in here, right? And then I can move around the petals, right? So, and I think it's hard. It's very challenging to get the wax to feel like it's moving and letting you in, right? And then, so it's like this balance. It's a balance between the depth of the wax and also the color.
okay, on the white flowers, then what would you bring in some black?
Well, I feel like these yellow ones, like in this area right here, are kind of all this mid-color yellow. So maybe some where they get darker, or and this side is a little darker, so you could mix, like you can pick, you could put, because you have this orange flower over here, you might even put a little orange over here, right? So, right, and then this one with the purple flowers, maybe you put a little bit of yellow in these guys, right? And like this green right here, maybe this green could use a little bit of this light yellow too, because where's the highlight on this green? Where is the sunlight hitting it, right? Another thing we have to remember is that we're photographers, or we understand photography. So if we're in a photo shoot, right? Like right now, can everybody tell that I have a hot light over here lighting me? So when I first started out, it was super contrasty. So I fanned the light. But I can tell you the light source is a straight line from my arm right now, right? Like my light source, right? So when you look at my face, if you were gonna paint my face right now, this would be, I mean, I could be like a nice like pinky peach color, whatever color you wanted to make me. But this is gonna be my highlight light right here, right? And then this is gonna be my shadow, right? So I'm gonna have one color, and then I'm gonna add white to it for over here. And I'm gonna add brown or black or blue or whatever I'm using as my shading color.
Because I had to get this stuff upstairs.
So it's always a challenge. But what I would suggest is use the other colors that you're already using in your composition to shade the other colors.
I agree.
Something fun to try, right? I don't think you need to add more colors. Like at a certain point, I'm always like not adding too many colors, right? I'd rather try to use the ones that I'm already using to do what I need to do. And this is very close. It's so good. Don't go too like, right? Take it like we used to joke in the dark room that 1 second made a difference. You remember those days? And it's true. 1 sec, like you could be so close to a perfect print, but if you went 5 seconds over, forget it. It'd be done. Done. Way too dark, right? So like baby steps. Okay, whose is this?
Sherry.
Sherry. Okay, so tell us about this one.
I could never get it to look like that it was all the same color and not divided, you know, with the magenta on one side and the yellow.
Yeah, but I kind of like it. I mean, I like it.
Oh, do you? Well, good.
I do. I like it. So I'm not worried about it being divided. What I'm a little bit worried about is, again, that same feeling, like where is the light coming from? And I don't even care that's abstract. It's still from, I see like light hitting this little baby flowery thing right here, right? So if light is here and this, so where else could there be light coming from? Like I feel like something else needs like behind it, like this could be a little bit lighter. Like I think about painting and I think about like movement. Like if you were actually like in the painting and you were moving around, right? Like where would it be like thick and dark and like luscious? And then where would it be like light and airy? And I think the light and airy is like right here in the middle. Do you agree?
Uh-huh.
So maybe that needs to be a little bit lighter. And then how could you make that lighter?
By putting white on it.
There's always like two directions to go with encaustic, I feel like, right? Adding or what? Go ahead. Anybody? Adding or subtracting?
Correcting.
Right. Adding or subtracting. So that's the really, really cool thing about encaustic is you have to remember you don't always have to add. Adding isn't always the right answer. Okay. So that's, I think, too, another challenge for painters or photographers. Because like even on the photo shoot, we're like, what else can we add to the photo shoot? Like add a hat, add some more flowers, add some more clothes, add another person, add more light, right? But when we get to the encaustic part, there's this like sort of beautiful thing where you can go, oh, wait, I don't have to add more. I could subtract, right? I can lighten an area by taking away paint because I know that my background is light, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or my background's dark, right? So whichever one it is, but I feel like this is over something light. Now, is there a photo in this or no photo?
There is, and you can hardly see it. It's very,
what is the photo? I'm dying to know.
all right, so do you see this?
Oh yeah, I love that. What is that?
It was a piece of fabric that I made a print of.
I love
And
that.
I left it in color tones, so rather than black and white. So you can see, but that vine with the little buds on it in green, that's the photo showing through.
Oh, this right here. Yeah, I love that.
So very vague. It's very vague.
Yes, but maybe the answer in this one is that there are areas of the photo that are thin. Like if you guys remember this one, right? I think I told you, like, there's hardly any wax here, right? And then I think I added just a little bit of medium. Like, go to the bone, right? Like as much as it sounds terrible, but as much as you want to add, like great, add. And then remember, you can go back to the bone, right? You can go back to the bone, and it's okay in the same piece to have volume and emptiness, right? It's okay to have loud and quiet in the same piece. It doesn't have to all be one thing. Okay. And that's, to me, I think, like where the real beauty lies, like naked and, covered, like those extremes and sort of how they play together. Okay.
All right. I'll scrape it back.
Right. Try. And then guess what? If you don't like it, then you can add, or then you could add another color. Then you could add white. I mean, I would try gently scraping it back slowly and watch it as you're doing it. Do it slowly, watch it, and see if it speaks to you.
I must say that the scraping is a real job.
It is a real job. Right. So I just posted on Facebook my show that's at Parktown, and it was no joke. Like scraping 4-foot by 5-foot paintings, like no joke. Like, right. And I mean, of course I was going crazy with the layers. I was like madly layering because in a way it's so fun to layer, right? But the more you layer, the more you got to think about scraping.
Yeah.
You're like,
right,
oh my God, what did I get myself into?
One question about scraping.
Yes.
When you scrape vigorously, you get a lot of scrape marks.
Yes, good question. Okay, so very nice question. So a lot of people like to scrape with that pottery tool, and remind me, I'll show it to you, but it's the one that's like a circle. I do not like to scrape with that thing. I would prefer, a lot of people, encaustic artists, like to scrape with like this thing, with this thing. I don't like this thing. This thing. I don't love this thing. But you can try it. It doesn't leave a razor blade mark, but it kind of goes like scoopy into it.
Mhm.
This one is also an option, but it's small. And I've never seen this one like enlarged to actually interest me enough. And oh, I think I was going to show you guys my razor blades. So I use these little ones are my favorite, but I also use the bigger ones. I just scrape, and then I either take like the palm of my hand right here and I rub. Like wax can be healed. So literally if you rub on it in a circle, it's almost like healing a wound. You can just kind of fuse the wax back together gently to connect and take away the nick. Or you can just very, very lightly from a distance fuse gently and try to encourage those little nicks to close up. You could
That's what I
also,
did. I fused.
you could also take a light, very light coat of wax medium and coat the nicks and then fuse. So those are 3 little options. But it depends. Sometimes I might even use just like my finger and literally like rub in a circle on the piece, and I can close those little nicks.
Okay.
Depending on how many. Sometimes I decide that I like the nicking pattern, right? So all very good questions. Thank you for asking them. These are Nanette's, and she unfortunately is not here, but she ended up using a pass technique, which is the tar over, I think she did black and then white and then tar. And then what I suggested to her in an email is that if she scrapes gently the tar off of the white, she'll get more like really serious 3-dimensional form, because she'll have white rising with black around the spaces. I mean brown, I'm sorry, the tar, right? So that's kind of interesting. And I wanted to talk to her about that today. Okay, but so Candace, is this the piece that you showed us the first time?
Yeah, I sent you what it looked like before and then what it was after. I did it with both of them, but I'm not really happy with it.
Well, tell us about it. Tell us about it.
I put on too light of I wanted to do a blue and a pink, and
Right.
I know you can mix colors, but I didn't have what I needed, and it came out too bright. So if I take some black over the top of that,
Right.
So I tried rubbing some into it, but it didn't come out the way I wanted it to.
So for whatever reason, I'm feeling more like I want you guys to tone with darker colors rather than black. I feel like I want you to tone with like a dark, like either a brown or a dark reddish brown. I feel like that's more realistic to a flower, because do you think a flower actually has like black on it? And wait, I'm gonna do something. And don't.
I used Prussian blue, but it really wasn't. It wasn't dark. It didn't come out dark enough.
Can you guys see this rose? Do you see the rose painting on my screen? Can you guys see that? Am I losing you?
Yes.
Did you see the
No, I
rose?
saw it.
Okay, so what I see in that rose painting, that was done by a fairly famous painter. His name is Tom Judd. And what I see in that rose is I see that he took like a very dark red, and then he kind of like made like a mid-tone red, and then he made a very light whitish red, and then he even warmed it up by maybe adding some orange, right? I don't see, and maybe he took a little bit of gray and made a grayish red. Like, I feel like black might be just too aggressive for that flower. And I also feel like it could really just give the flower volume to use like a darker color, like a color rather than black. Because in some way, I think black might represent like empty space or like nothing is there, right? Like, whereas like a darker red suggests shading, right? More saturation, like a darker tone of the color. So that could go like inside here where you know there's darkness, and around here where it's behind the petals. If you wanted to use black, maybe just put a little bit of color in the black, just so it's not pure black.
I can do that with the flower. I was talking more about the top of it. I'm not sure I like that. I don't like that blue. I think it's too bright.
This
And
blue
I tried to use a Prussian and I couldn't get it toned down.
did you try a brown, like a umber, a raw umber?
I could do that. I just put it on over.
I think I would just put the brown. I think I would just put the brown right on the oh, there's Nanette. Yay. I would just put the brown slit, start building it into the blue. I think blues and browns look beautiful together. And
Okay.
it especially because, the reason too I'm feeling like red and brown is because you used gold and yellow, right? So if you wanted to stay stay warm and welcoming and sort of like lovely, I would go with those warmer colors before I would make it black at the top.
Okay.
And also the right side, the left side, like that could go, this whole area up here could go into white. Have you thought about making this, like, leave the texture, leave the gray, but start going like into, a cloud space? Like, like what, is this a wall or is this like an open sky? Like you could decide, you could go either way with it. You could make it hard and closed. You could force the flower forward and close the space, or you can open the space, like opening the top of the jar and letting the clouds out. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I think you could go either way with that.
Okay.
And you can ground it here at the bottom and maybe lighten this. And then if you don't like that, you could always go back and close because it can either go, like this, like where this is a wall behind it, and then this flower thing is coming in front of it, or it could go just open and up, right? Like no content.
So once you've used the pigment sticks on it, can you still heat it and then apply Encaustic to it?
Yeah, I can
block.
demonstrate that today. So you can definitely use, at any point, you can definitely put the pan pastels or the pigment sticks in between any layer of encaustic wax.
Okay.
Okay. And remind me to demonstrate that today. Or if you want me to, next week, I can do like a longer demo on that. That you just have to make some executive decisions. And those executive decisions, are you going to dry it instantly by using heat, or are you going to put it on the shelf and give it a week? A timeout or like work time, right? Is it going on stage or off stage for a week, right? So you can put the oil sticks on and you can fuse them gently and dry them instantly.
Oh.
Okay. Or you can put Encaustic over them.
And then, right, and you can go right over them, but they're gonna blur. Right? So if you want it to be set and not move, you have to do something to make it set. Does that make sense?
Okay. Okay.
The oil sticks, because they're oily, they're like moving all the time, but they will dry and firm, or you can heat them to firm them. And once they're firm, then you can paint over them, right? If they're not set, you can paint over them, but they will blur.
They'll blur. Okay.
Right. Okay. Which could be cool, depending on how much you use.
Okay.
I've never really, only like this year and maybe a little bit last year, did I really even start to play around with fusing pigment sticks, right? So that's these guys. As everybody, look, if we're talking about something and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, please raise your hand, right? Or like do a Hail Mary or stop me, right? So we're talking about taking this RNF or oil bar or whatever pigment stick you have. If you do paint with it on the wax, can you paint wax over it? And the answer is yes. Okay. Candace, I think this one's close. I think it's really close. I think you need, I think these yellow areas need to dance. They need depth. They need highlights and shadows. This yellow area needs highlights and shadows. Okay. Again, it's so hard with Encaustic to get it to have lights and darks. Like, you have to really try hard. right? And so one couple techniques that I use is one is like I would go into that flower and maybe take a tool and actually remove some of the wax in that area, right? By poking it, right? Because that will give me instant depth. It's like physically I'm putting the depth of the flower into there, right?
Okay.
Or trying to tone it with like lights and darks of paint, which is harder, right?
Okay.
Also here with these light pink areas, I think you're pink over white. So you could remove a little bit, use a little tool, a little baby tool. If you remove just a little bit of that pink, then it's not a solid area of pink. It has a highlight, which is gonna like pop that petal forward, right? So again, like sometimes subtraction is the answer.
Okay.
Okay, getting close, lovely piece. Okay, and this is the other one you're working on.
Right.
Okay, I
This one
love,
has,
this has tar on it?
it does.
Candace,
A lot of
love
texture.
the white. I love the whites and browns. I really like this piece. I
Thank you.
like how the flowers, I like how it's like a garland at the top, and I still like the confusion about it being attached to a student. I still love like I love the mechanical aspect and the floral aspect. And these circles are really nice, right? You could play around with adding like a reflective white in any of these items down here at the bottom, right? As if those white flowers are sort of glowing on
Okay.
it, right? Sort of casting their glow down here. It's almost like a reflective pool. Does anybody else feel that way? That like the flowers are hanging over like water and they could be like reflecting in this area?
Okay.
I really
I
love
burned
these.
those circles.
They're
I
beautiful.
put gesso on and then burned it with the torch.
Yeah, I like being able to see into this area. Like it's like a really nice it has a really nice rhythm, right? It's like clear and then murky, and then I get a little bit of clarity, and then it's murky, and then maybe there's like a clear again. It just has a very nice rhythm and flow to it. Okay, whose are these? Are these Pam? Yes, hi. Okay, so tell us about these.
That's Pam. Yeah.
Hi, Pam. I think I remembered that they were yours. I think I did. Go ahead. Tell us about these.
This was hand painted a year ago, and I thought, well, I'll just work with it. So I followed the hand painted colors and the original color of the photograph, and tried to add in paint in the encaustic wax. I had fun mixing the colors, and then I was trying to do some shading in the flowers. I see it now, it's not very good. And then I just love the white, so I just kind of had fun playing with the white. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure. To me, it seems too strong, and I want to tone it down some. And any other suggestions that you have?
Okay, so what I'm feeling and thinking is that yellow area is like a screen. It's as if like I was here and the yellow area is in front of me. Do you guys see that?
That's what
Right?
that's what it actually was. She had
Right.
plexiglass in front of her, and then
I love
water
that.
running down, and
Right.
the sun hit it. So that's what that came from. So I
Right.
was just
So I love that. So today's class is going to be perfect for you because basically like this area I think should be more yellow, but not opaque yellow. It should be translucent yellow to suggest, right, the idea of this layer being far a little bit in the foreground from the subject, right? So basically like I would be holding the flowers. This would be yellow, right? And then you see my face, and then the flowers, you're absolutely right. The flowers are too bright, right? Because if this is the foreground, I'm the midground. The flowers are sort of behind my chin, and also because there's not a lot of light here, the flowers should be softer. They should just be softer. Because right now they're like up in the front with this,
Yeah.
and they're just, it's not making sense.
Yeah.
So you could remove a little bit of the wax. You could put just a
Okay.
translucent layer of gray over them, like anything to kind of like soften them. So today we're going to talk about like softening, right? And that'll be perfect for you. I mean, I'm not 100% sure about what this white is on her forehead.
She had a little headband on, and so I just emphasized the white. So I think it was too much.
I just think it's too white. I think it's just too bright white, and it needs also like some toning or a little bit of pinkness to it, like something to soften it. So again, maybe a little bit of subtraction, a little bit of a translucent glaze. We're gonna talk. This is like perfect, you guys. You're all perfect. You're primed for my translucent glazing. Okay. So it's also an option when like one area seems like it's plateaued, it's stopped talking to you, it's sort of like gotten to, everybody's in a contest, everyone's competing with each other for the spotlight type of thing. And I think that this yellow area too needs a little highlight and shadowing, right? So right, a little bit like we'll see after you do the translucent layer, we'll see what it looks like.
Okay.
The thing is too, like if you have bright colors under a translucent layer, if you scrape that back and they come through. So there's a lot of ways to sort of come through. Okay, so is this like a bouquet, like laying down flat?
Yeah, it's laying down on a stone bench, and there were actually lots of natural, you know, whatever.
I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, what I love about, I like that the white swirl on the top. That was the pigment stick. I just went nuts. I thought, wow, look at this. So I let that dry for 2 weeks. And then I started putting colors, and I didn't like the colors, so I toned down the pink.
I love this color palette. I mean, if you look at like my assistant Athena's work, like this is her color palette, like muted yellow, peach, like pale green, like pastel-y blue, and black, and white, and ivory. Like those are her color palette.
Oh, really?
So the color palette is beautiful. I think again, like I think it very much like what I spoke to Sherry about and what I just spoke to you earlier about. You've got the form of these flowers. You've got a great base of paint on here. Now you need like those you just need to fine tune it. You need to like lift the form. Like you need to remove a little area, right? Because a flower has so many like intricate little parts, and they're so imperfect. In a way, as you've painted them, you've sort of removed their imperfection and created this sort of like hard paint form for what is supposed to be like this sort of ephemeral, like moving, you know, part of nature, right? That has like light through it. So like a little bit of lemon yellow, right? A little bit of gray, a little bit of like, I don't know, a little bit of white. Also little marks, right? Like get out your like lobster tool or the end, like a little tool and make little marks in these little petals, and then rub something in there, right? Like this is my lobster picking tool that I probably stole from my dad like years ago, okay? Because he's the only guy I know that still has a lobster tool kit. So, but yeah, I definitely stole this from the lobster tool. But this is a great tool. So never underestimate your cooking tools, like your cheese. How about your cheese grater or puller or a little, anyway. Pottery tools, also knitting needles I like a lot, sewing needles, just because those little marks that kind of make things look more believable to me and more realistic. Also a little bit of shading, and I feel like you did it with the encaustic, but I feel like you need to do a little bit with a pigment stick or pan pastel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got it. At a certain point, it's like you could ride this horse to like this point, but you need to get off that horse and you need to ride a different horse. Okay. So it's like when you know that you need to switch horses, right? So when it gets to a certain point and you feel like you have enough form and enough texture, then you need to get off and use something lighter, right? Something that spreads more easily, that's easier to manipulate, right?
Okay.
So think about another art material at that point. And those other art materials, you know, right? The other art materials are pigment sticks or pan pastels, right? A little bit of oil paint, if that's what you're using.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, there are these
yes.
little oil, I don't know if they're pastels, but they're like crayons, but they're oil based. Would those be okay?
You can try. I only like them if they're good and mushy and they move around and they're dissolvable. Those are
Okay.
my criteria. I like to be able to thin them with a medium, such as
Wow.
pigment stick extender or coconut oil or vegetable oil. I like them to go almost. I like them to be semi-translucent, and I like them to really be able to move around the wax so that they can get every teeny nook and cranny. Because
Okay.
I want to show the dimension. I want depth. I want things to look 3D.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Good. Thank you. Okay.
Pam, if it's okay, I'm going to skip this one.
Yeah,
Let's you and I talk about this one on the email. And I have your prints for you. I'd like to go to Bonnie's if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And Nanette,
Sure.
I'm going to go. Are you here?
Yes.
Yay! I'm so glad you
Sorry.
joined us. I'm going to go back to you because I really love what you're doing. But okay, so and we talked about you for a second behind your back, but only good stuff. Okay. Okay, so Bonnie, I'm really excited about this. Are you excited?
I'm glad. I see on the photo though, there's like a brownish spot in the lower right. That isn't in the painting itself. It's some sort of thing with the photograph. Yeah, I've never done anything like this before. It's really very
I feel like you very successfully mirrored my demonstration, first of all. And second of all, I feel like you have a lot of options here.
Okay.
I feel like this has really provided you. So one of those options is to sort of create, like we've talked about, I think before with your work, is a horizon line, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you can really, if you formulate your horizon line, you can really have this kind of like reality and surreality happening, like fantasy and reality in the same piece, right? Because you have a realistic creature here, right? These horses. And then right now they're like breaking through this wall. Like I feel like I'm in Mexico, like looking through a hole in a wall, looking at these horses galloping toward, like I'm looking, right? I'm looking through a hole. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And I think that that's really cool. I mean, it's literally like this is what you've created, right? You've literally created like this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Like that's a major achievement. I mean, and that's basically what I created as well, right? Is I totally like buried her and then I created this hole. Now this is my foreground and she's in my background. So I'm peeping in on her. Now I'm peeping in on these horses. So you could leave it like this if you like it, or you can start to manipulate the wax on the right side or the left side to look like a field. Do you see that opportunity?
I like the left side, but the right, they don't go together.
Okay.
So
okay. So you're gonna pick, right?
What do you do with do you say a field on the right? I'm not sure I know what you mean.
So we're gonna do translucent glazing today. So you're gonna be able to start to manipulate the side that you don't like to look like a field.
Okay.
Right? So then maybe you'll have like this kind of like frontal, like, right? You'll have this layering effect where the side, so are you saying you like this side or you like my right or your right?
The stencil side.
You like the stencil side. Okay. Okay. So, and I would suggest minimizing that a little bit.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I would suggest maybe minimizing the texture a little bit.
Okay.
It's not quite so graphic because I feel like it's competing with the horses. But this side too, we can soften this line, how they're connecting, and we could also remove more wax, or we can do what we're going to do today to it, where we're going to do.
You're breaking up.
Am I breaking up for everybody? Am I breaking up for
Yes.
everybody? Oh, and I just lost somebody.
No, no, no.
Oh, okay.
I'm back. I had
I lost Pam. Can you hear me now, Bonnie?
Hear you?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now you have a lot going on.
Right.
So something needs to get quieted down.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay. And that's what it's a perfect opportunity today with the translucent glazes. Okay. So you have to make a decision though about color and what's going to stay and what's going to go. Okay. So you can watch today, and I'm happy to email with you about it.
Okay.
But I think it's very successful, and I hope that you kind of learned. I feel like you really learned about excavating and layering, which is very nice. And I feel like a lot of very beautiful textures appeared for you, right?
Yeah.
Which gives you a lot of room for opportunity. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And we can speak on email after you see the lesson today. How's that?
Okay. That sounds good.
Okay, good. Okay, great. I think oh, Nanette, I'm going to go back to you. So are you there?
Yes,
Okay, so these are your pieces. Do you want to talk a minute about them? I'm going to show everybody.
sure. That was actually my original.
Right. And this is the after.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we talk about this one? Let's talk about
Okay.
this one. Okay. So then tell me what you did.
Oh, so what I did was I did what you asked us to do, right? Coat white and then black.
Yeah.
And I pulled too hard on her right foot.
Okay.
And I really wasn't sure, I thought it was just ruined, right? But then I started to use tar. So then I got the tar out and I thought it covered up nicely where I had, sort of scratched her foot out.
Right.
And then, there's a lot of tar in here. There's a lot of, the white encaustic and the black encaustic. Oh no, I didn't use black. I actually used beige and brown.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's stencils, the rest of it.
Yeah. I love this, I love the cracks over it. I love this part. And then what was when I emailed you back, what was my suggestion? To lightly what? Lightly scrape, right? Again.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, to kind of bring maybe something up here brighter, right? Because I feel like the foot is this frontal waxy texture is forward, right? And this is going back, right?
Yeah.
So, but because this white here and these whites and this white are all the same value, I would love something to have a highlight. So maybe like this leaf here could be a little bit whiter. And if you don't want to scrape back because you're afraid of like losing something or damaging something, you could just take a little bit of like a white pigment stick and put a little bit of white over the tar.
Oh, okay.
Right? So again, because you have those prominent three-dimensional shapes, you could take a little bit of this white and rub it in an area to make that. And then you'll have, because this white over here on the side to me is so strong, I feel like you need a little, like almost bounce light, as if it was reflecting a little bit of highlight light white on this part.
Okay, I think I understand.
Yeah, because
and if I use the blending stick with the white, does that help it?
Yes, it helps it go onto a textured area, and it helps it. It's kind of like what we're going to talk about today. It just makes it more translucent and more easily spreadable.
Okay,
right?
that's
Okay,
yeah.
so it can go around the spaces, and like you have those beautiful little holes right here. Those would be cool if they were white. It'd be cool if you could really, and you could use like a brush, like a little brush, and put just a little bit of white in here. Maybe this space right here. this space. So again, that's a perfect example, Nanette, of my point today, and the same point that I mentioned to Sherry, which was when you get to a certain level of painting and you feel like you're kind of not sure what to do next, start to think about the possibilities of subtracting or adding, right? But at a certain point, it's going to be very delicate. Like it's going to be a little bit.
I
Right?
did consider taking the eye out.
Well, listen, we're going to do translucent glazes today. So if you did a translucent glaze over the eye, you can leave the eye there, but you can take away, you can downgrade its prominence, right? Does that make sense? You can take it from here, right, high visibility, you can soften its visibility by adding a translucent glaze, okay? Okay. So I cannot tell you how grateful I am that everybody's little discussions about their pieces really brought up the topic at hand, okay? And this was such a huge aid or helpful technique for me as I was working on those very large pieces, because I really wanted the pieces to have depth, right? And I feel like Encaustic is challenging. It's like having a bunch of children in a room who all want attention at the same time, right? And they're all worthy of attention and they're all great and you want to give it to them, but it's just too much. Like somebody has to be quiet. Okay. So my solution for that with the Encaustics is really to, I'm going to switch off, is really to try to pick and choose which areas are working for me and which areas. Did we lose Pam? We lost Pam. Okay.
Oh, yay.
Pam, are you back? Are you back?
I am. I'm so sorry. I was trying to plug in my computer because it was losing power, but okay. I'm sorry about that.
I lost myself. Give me 1 second. Hang on. I lost my other device too. I don't know. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Give me 1 second before I start my demo. So time out. My phone died. I think, Candace, when I called you, I took it off the charger, and my phone is like my phone should probably be retired. You know, I don't know if it should probably be retired just from overusage. Okay. So we're gonna work today in really thinning a wax color. We can also talk about using pigment sticks for translucent glazing, and even I don't think I would use pan pastels for glazing, but you could. Then the idea here, not everybody went straight black and white with their layering, which is fine. So what I find with this piece for me is that it's like it's too busy. It's just way too busy, and it's also too stark. Like there's something about just black and white to me that just, I like it, but it's also just, it's like too harsh, right? I like things a little bit softer, and I want to create more depth. Okay. Also, like the way this shape is around her head reminds me a little bit too of like what Bonnie has. And Bonnie, you have like such a specific shape around your photo characters, right? So how do you kind of like soften these lines, right? And suggest another, a better merging, like quieter. So first I'm gonna look at it.
Yeah.
Do you have a question? Okay.
No,
Any questions? Okay. So I'm gonna pick a color, and I think I'm gonna pick a warm color, but I could do like a warm and a cool color. So that might be nice. Like maybe I pick like an orange color to glaze like this area, and maybe I pick like a nice like light blue. I'm thinking like orange and blue. I really liked, like in the summer, I feel like blue and orange look good together. Okay, So, and I'm gonna leave one area black and white so that we can compare and contrast, right, the 3 parts. So I'm gonna go very translucent blue over here. I'm gonna go, oh, I'm sorry, very translucent orange over here, very translucent blue over here, and then we're gonna see what's next. All right, I just have to get my other phone started, and then I'll do the demo. I'm not gonna add a bunch of tricks today, like promises. Hold on one second. I'm not gonna do any inlay in between. I'm not gonna confuse anybody. Also, I think I might have mentioned my mud before. Did I mention my mud? So
Yes.
okay, so this is an example of my mud, and basically what the ingredients of my mud are like 90% wax medium and 10% dirty brush, dirty, paint colors that I've worked with. So what I do is I save this and I use it to tone down bright colors, because often I find that the encaustic paints straight off the bar are so strong. So in order to sort of like mute them a little bit, I mix my mud. And green is a really good mud color. I think that purple's a really good mud color too. I also think that like a light like brown is a good mud color, because it just takes that like edge off of those vibrant colors and makes them, and I just prefer that. I like that softer, waxier color tone. So any of the mauve-y colors are good. This is another one of my favorite colors of mud. Right? Do you guys see, can you see the color of that? It's kind of like lavender. This is actually, I'm really sad. This is like my last piece of this. And you have to remember that these are sort of made accidentally from cleaning my brushes, right? So I put some wax medium in a pot, and then I put my dirty brushes in the pot to loosen the wax and clean the brushes. And then at the end of the day, or when I come into the studio the next day, I might pop this out and like start a new mud batch, but then I can break it up. Like I can just break it into little pieces and put it on with other paints. So that's kind of fun. All right, let me get my phone up and then I'm gonna switch my viewer thing. I gotta log back on. Hold on one second. I want you guys to have the table view. Table view, bird's eye view. All right, here we go. Sign it back in. I have to let myself back in. I have to let myself back in. So, hold on. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. All right, good. All right, here we go. Table view. So I started like a new, I think I did a little IGTV video on this too, but I have just like stacks of paper in my studio. I think this is just like drawing paper, but I think it's fun to sort of like make my own stencils. And these are not like stencils. These are like what I call masking tools. So masking, let me put this, I'm gonna put this on as the big view too, hold on. Okay, so this, I'm gonna cut a couple of these. This is just regular paper, but I started really getting interested in cutting things this last year. So I don't know why, but I just think it's fun to kind of see what shapes you're drawn to, and also what shapes resonate within your work. Like, is it ovals? Like, I think if I asked all of you to basically pick a shape, everybody could pick a shape, like their favorite shape, right? I think mine is definitely like a curve. Does anybody feel like their favorite shape is a triangle? I think my favorite shape is definitely like an oval or a circle, right? So what I was gonna do is I'm just gonna make some shapes. I'm gonna use my scissors and I'm gonna cut some shapes with this paper, right? And so I'm kind of starting to think about positive and negative space, and maybe like where I can mask this piece of art, right? So, and I'm gonna use these stencils as I put down my translucent layers, right? I need some masking tape. So I like ovals. Okay, so I just made a couple, right? And I could change the sizes. I'm also interested in this shape too, right? I'm interested in what I cut out, right? So I'm interested in the part that I cut and the part that I left. Okay, so if I cover this area up, that means I can do a translucent glaze over here, and I can start to create some depth, right, between this and that. So let's do that first. I'm gonna use my masking tape. I'm gonna use my masking tape. This is cloth tape, that's not. I'm gonna use masking tape too. If you wanted to do a vertical line, you could definitely just take a piece of paper like this, right? And you could just tape masking tape onto it and do a nice vertical line. So, or if there's a part of your encaustic work that you've already done that you don't want to mess up, by all means, cover it up, right? And I think that sometimes, you know, discerning what you want to keep in a piece and what you're already very happy with is sort of important. It's kind of like, it's like laying down the law. It's like, I love this part and I don't want to lose it, right? So, but I want the other parts, you know, you want the other parts to sort of soften or go away or get less obvious. Okay, so I'm gonna tape this on here, right? And I know that I worked hard, especially on her face, right? Like on like this area here. I don't want any paint on that. So I'm gonna cover that up. And this, I really like this area in here. It's actually like my favorite part when I was looking at it after class last week. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover this up. So now I see pretty clearly where I want to put the translucent glaze. And I think I said light blue at the bottom. And I'm going to do like a light orange at the top. So for the most important thing for the translucent glaze is that it's a lot of wax medium in it, right? A lot of wax medium. So it's mostly wax medium. I'm just trying to soften some of this stuff that I have going on. Okay, so that's pretty good. This one's not sticking. All right. So I'm gonna take my wax over here. Can everybody, oh, wait, let me see. Move this guy. How's my view? Good, can you guys see the corner of my plate? Okay, I'm gonna take this wax medium tray like this, and I'm gonna pour a little dollop of it on my hot plate. That's what my wax medium. And I'm gonna get my blue. I'm gonna use a light blue, and I'm gonna add some water, white. I'm gonna lighten it. So I'm gonna make some tiny little bit of paint. Tiny little bit of paint. Hold on. Is that better? Where's my palette? There you go. There you go. There you go. Now you see. Now you can see it. Is that better? Oh, this is the broken part. Hold on, I'm trying to make my view better. I'm gonna turn it upside down. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Stop me if I'm being kooky. So that still just doesn't look like that much paint. Also, I'm sloping downhill. So I'm gonna go ahead and add way more medium. I can tell that it's pretty light in color though. So I'm gonna add way more medium, right? Way more. I want it to be like watery, right? Watercolory. And I'm gonna add a little bit of lightness to it. Now I know that I just increased the thickness and I made it too green, so I don't like that. So I'm gonna make it bluer. And I'm gonna add more medium. All right, so I think that's good. That's fairly washy, right? And it's a nice color, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and just brush it right over top of this. And I can see that it's nice and translucent, right? And this is what I call a translucent glaze, right? So it's taking all of those white tones. Now, if I wanted to tone it a little bit, I could add a little bit of lighter yellow to the top, right? And I could add maybe a little bit of a darker blue to the bottom, right? Just kind of along the edges, right? So again, I'm trying to sort of do this translucent glaze, but I'm also thinking about toning a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna put that dirty brush in the pot, and I'm gonna go ahead and fuse this part. Now, I think for a translucent glaze, that might be a little bit thick, but I'm gonna scrape it back, so we'll see. I'm gonna fuse it. We'll fuse it. So technically with the translucent glaze, I should see a color shift, but I should also see like detail of what was underneath. I feel like this screen's not doing such a great job. I'm gonna flip you guys to this one for a second. Now these stencils I started making this year because I really wanted to be able to control the shape of my translucent glazes, right? So I just really wanted to be able to have forms and control the shapes a little bit. All right, so we can see the difference, right, between that nice, cool, greeny blue and the starkness of that black and white, right? And then when I take this off, I should have a nice little shape here too. Now, it's stuck a little bit to my wax piece, and it took a little extra with it, right? So I'm gonna let that go, but I didn't really want that to happen. So, and I think that happened because I fused with the paper on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this little baby brush, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna just like patch this green. I'm gonna spread this green into this space a little bit. But you can kind of see how just like the introduction of this very translucent color over this bright white can just be like so pretty. And then I could use it to kind of like create these spaces. If I go like along this outside line right here, I can kind of use it to sort of like feel like it's falling over, right? So like I just created like a hangy vine with like a light source from the back, right? So now I've kind of determined where my light source is by dulling down all that bright white, right? And allowing the light to sort of come this way, right? So I feel like now I have a little bit more direction, and I also feel like it's a little bit more interesting now that I've added that translucent glaze. I'm gonna go ahead and scrape back a little though, because I feel like it's unintegrated. So scraping back with the razor blade will help me integrate those layers. So I'm gonna go ahead and scrape back just very lightly. And this was like the kind of scraping back that I was talking about to Sherry, or even a little bit to Bonnie, or even a little bit to Nanette, where you're not scraping back like in the archaeological way to do like the big dig. You're scraping back just to create like a little bit of nuance and a little bit more softness, right? Also to sort of uncover gently some underneath light. Like for me, I have light coming from the back, right? So I have light coming through this translucent glaze. So just very lightly. Also remember, just continue to scrape off your razor blade, right? So you don't want your razor blade to get too gummy, right? Like gummy like this. So you're gonna consistently just kind of scrape it off and make a little pile, okay? And you could totally reuse that paint. And this is like a pretty color. So this was like King's Blue with like lemon yellow and like 90% wax medium, right? Like lots of wax medium. So very little paint, right? But now when I scrape back this semi-translucent or translucent layer, I'm gonna be able to really get some softer detail, right? Not so harsh. It's like looking through like a scrim, right? Like a screen of like light blueness. Okay. Also, I need to break it up here too, right? I can't just do the bottom. So I need to break this up too. But I love these papered stenciled shapes, you guys. I cannot tell you, I feel like I've really been able to push my work forward faster and with more success by using these shaped areas, right? Like it has so much more depth with one translucent layer, right? And leaving like one area covered. Like I've literally created this like beautiful sort of arched form here. It's so much nicer. This is so much prettier to me than it was when it was just all stark black and white. I mean, it was interesting and intense, but like I didn't want to like stay there. You know, now I feel like it's like more inviting. Okay. And at any point too, like I can add another layer. And I think I should add another translucent glaze, right? And what else can I do? I could also change the stencil shape, right? So I can continue to use my circle, but I could shrink the circle, right? I could take this semicircle. I should call it a semicircle. I could also, was this the one I used? Oh, this is the one I used. I'm gonna shrink it. So I'm gonna use the same one, but I'm just gonna make it, I'm gonna follow my shape line. So like Candace, this would work really well in your painting where you made some type of stencil shape and then you could really add a translucent glaze to the top of that painting by covering up the parts that you already know that you like, right? So I'm gonna go a little bit smaller, right? This is the one I painted over. So I'm gonna go a little bit flatter, not so arched. And I could really add, even if I wanted to, like more of a design. What if your favorite shape was a triangle, right? So let's see what happens if I add a triangle to this. Where would I put the triangle? I could put it, I think the figure's a triangle, right? So I can put the triangle here. I'm gonna put the triangle there. And I'm just gonna use these like tape balls, right? And I don't wanna, remind me, I'm not fusing with the paper on this time. Hello. Duh. Okay, hello. Okay. Way to melt things into your artwork. Yes, fuse while they lay there. Okay. I'm gonna add more wax medium. And I think I'm switching colors. Hold on. I'm gonna make this wash. I'm gonna make this one a little bit more blue. So lots of wax medium. Can't deal with my phone camera right now, I'm sorry. And I could shade it another tone. So I'm gonna go with a little, remember how I was talking about using darker tones? So I'm going to shade my blue with a little bit of a darker blue, right? I went lighter. Now I'm going to go a little bit cooler, right? I'm going to cool it down. Like we need some cooling right now. And I'm just going to, I'm just going to hold this on. So this can be so fun, this translucent glazing. And look, I just created some spaces, right? As I scraped. So I'm gonna end up covering them. But now the bottom's gonna get a little bit darker because I'm using this cooler blue, right, from the top. And again, like I like to spread the color out, so I might put a little bit. And then I'm gonna switch to the orange. I'm gonna switch to the warm colors for the other side so you can really see a difference. Okay, so, right, these masking paper pieces are fun. I'm gonna take it off before I fuse, which is a really brilliant idea, Leah. Okay, because look, I didn't pull up any of my underneath wax this time like I did the last time, right? And I'm just kind of having fun and making these sort of like fun, can you see this little like moony shape I just made? Just by putting that little sliver down there. I still have this nice white, like circly space here. And now I cooled this green to more of like a nice bluey color. Okay, and I'm gonna fuse again. Now it's kind of building up, right? It's like those two translucent, it's building up. So I'm not seeing as much of the background, but I could scrape that back a little bit. I also think that if I fuse a little bit longer, some of that will come through. I'm just gonna let it sit too for a minute. And let's work on the other side. So I'm gonna work on the other side. The other side I was gonna make blue. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean my palette real quick.
Leah, I have a question.
Yes?
It seems as if when we're doing this glazing that you have to have a more smooth surface in your work.
Yes. No, well, okay, not exactly. What happens if you have a lot of texture? I mean, I have a smooth surface because I really worked hard to get that by scraping it down. But smooth is not right for everybody. Everybody doesn't, you know, some people like a lot of texture, and texture is not wrong, right? So what happens when you put a glaze over a very textured area? What happens? What do you, so just philosophize. It sounded funny. What do you think is gonna happen?
You lose the texture, look.
Well, it's still gonna be there. You're not actually gonna lose the texture, but you're gonna lose, right, the textured look to the surface. So you could do partial, right? You don't have to do all of it. You could go around it, right? What did you, is this Nanette talking to me?
No, Sherry.
Sherry. Okay, so what did Nanette do to glaze? She did a glaze. What did she use to glaze? Nanette, what did you use to glaze?
Tar.
Tar. Right. So if you want to maintain your texture and you do not want to smooth your texture, does anybody know what else you could use to do a translucent glaze?
Oil sticks.
Oil sticks with what? With
With
what?
medium. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
With the extender stick, right?
Oh, with the blending stick?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. So if you have a very textured area that you want to maintain texture, but you want to change the color tone, right? You can use your pigment stick with your extender and really mix them together, like mostly extender and a little bit of pigment stick, and then rub it. Now remember, the texture is making like, you know, highs and lows, right? So you're never going to cover it all. You're going to cover around the outside edges of the texture, right? Once you rub it in.
That's good to know.
Right. But you can take a very textured area and you can bury it in a translucent glaze. And then, Sherry, you can scrape back and you can reveal the colors in the texture and some of the texture, right? but it's going to be smooth because you basically like filled the pockets, right? You filled the pockets. So it will look textured, but not feel textured. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a warm color. I'm gonna use this kind of like I'm sorry, like a brick. It's like so my favorite RNF red is called brick red, and so I think this is brick red. I love it. It's such a cool red. It's because I'm not into like red, although it can be nice. And I'm gonna add yellow, right? So here I'll show you my palette. I'm mad at my phone right now, so we're in a fight right now. So there's my little palette. So 2 little bits of color, and then I'm gonna just soup that up with lots of medium, right? So here's I have a really nice mud color in here, you guys. It's kind of like my favorite. It's like, this is like milk, this is like chocolate, milk chocolate. Do you see? It's such a good color. So that's a good mud color. It'll just take that sharpness off of that red. It'll just cool it down. And I'm gonna clean a brush. So my brushes are muddy. I'm gonna clean a brush. And now I'm gonna do this translucent. So Sherry, this is interesting. The last time I did the translucent, I used a hake brush that was super smooth. Now this is that wood trimming brush, but it's gotten a haircut. Remember when I gave this guy a haircut? So it's gonna be medium, I would say medium textured. But I'm gonna add a lot of encaustic medium here. And look, what a pretty color. Oh, and I just ruined my medium. Oh well. Okay, so now my medium is orange-ish. That's okay. I like it. It's a pretty color. It's kind of like a little peach. All right, so I can tell that's still too thick. So sometimes when I do these glazes, I do end up just using this little aluminum pan. I mean, there's only like this much medium in there, which is fine. Also, like it's still too pink for me. So I have to try to figure out how to make it warmer. And maybe this yellow just isn't strong enough. So I might have to go for like one of these yellows, right? Like a real yellow, right? Because that red is so vibrant that other yellow was not warming it up. It just
What's the color name of the red?
What?
What was the color name of the red?
I think that's the brick red that I like.
RNF?
Yeah. Yeah. And this one's just too dark. It's too dark, right? So I'm gonna lighten it. Okay, so then I just added a little bit of white. So that's a better color, right? So I added 2 kinds of yellow. I didn't like either of them. And then I just added a little bit of white. Okay, I think that's a nice color. It's like peachy. And I could still add a little bit more yellow for summertime, right? Just because only because it's summertime. No, just kidding. Okay. And now I've added too much paint, so again, I have to add more medium. Now you can always test these. You can always test your translucent glazes. So if you take like a nice piece of white paper and you draw on it like this, you can test it. So now I know that that's translucent. Does that make sense? Right? So this is how I can test them. Of course, if I took it from the top, like up here, right? This is just a different color. It's still pretty translucent, but it's a different color, right? So you can always take a scrap of white paper and test your colors. I think it's a good idea. Now my color is drifting away, and I'm gonna put you guys back over here. And I'm gonna use what I call a reverse stencil, right? I can still use my triangle. Still gonna use my triangle because I want to protect her head, right? But I'm gonna use a reverse. I'm gonna use a reverse stencil. So I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna go on an angle, I think. Somebody needs to mute. They've got some people. They've got peeps at their house. Okay. Here we go. All right. Here I go with this translucent glaze. So it'll look really nice, I think, because of the warmness to it, right? In contrast to the coolness. Oh my God, it looks beautiful. And I'm going fairly. I'm having an accident, sorry. And I could gradient it over here. Now this can get really addicting, I'm telling you, because these translucent glazes they just end up being like, so look, I'm gonna pop a little bit of this too in around that other area, and I'm gonna mix the two together just because that's what I like to do, because I think it's pretty. And it's so apricot-y, I love it. Okay, so this is what I did with that translucent glaze, right? So, and it just, I think like really made these black areas, it just made them like almost just so much prettier, right? And I left my triangle there, so let's see what happens. I'm definitely gonna take my paper off. And so then I can decide, right, how I feel. I love what this looks like though. Isn't that so pretty? And I can decide what I wanna do about this. I can't decide right this second. I think I'm gonna fill it in. So I'm gonna go close to her head with just a regular brush before I fuse. So I'm gonna go like this. I'm just gonna go right, like, and I'm not gonna go over her, but I'm just gonna try to like blend. And I'm gonna kind of go close to her to make it look, I might even dare to go, just to make it look more blendy. Right? I'm gonna put a little bit of pink in her skirt. Or peach, it's not pink, sorry. All right, and then I'm gonna fuse. Any questions? I think at the one side, I did 2 layers, so I can do 2 layers on this side too. But I'm gonna fuse.
Such a great look.
I think that translucent, even in oil painting, I always love the idea of the translucent glaze. And even in my earlier work, like this is really kind of what my earlier work was about, was sort of putting this like light colored layer over the figure and then sort of like removing the wax where the figure was, kind of like, right? But now these forms are more like floor, like they kind of remind me of huge sunflowers kind of growing over her head, you know? And then you can kind of really sort of use your drawing tools or your scraping tools to pick and choose what parts you want to pop and how these kind of layers integrate. So I feel like I should definitely like give this a little shaving to kind of get the light, right, the white to come back through. I don't want it to look too heavy. I want it to look organic and natural and flowy. I don't want it to look forced, right? Like stuck on there. Also, like, look, do you see here, right here is her hand, right? So if I just remove the orange from her hand, I can sort of like pop this element out, right? By removing this, a little bit of that color. And I want to blend this area here. Again, this is like very light shaving. Like, first of all, I'm shaving like towards my body, which is probably pretty dangerous. But, and then like, look, so here, this is what I was talking about a little bit, Sherry and Candace, maybe even Pam, where this is fairly flat right now, right? There's no like pop, but because I have white under here, if I just can remove a little bit of this orange and let that white, right? Even like Nanette, if I let this white like pop, look, did you guys see that? That's like a tiny little bit of white, but it made this little thing have a highlight, right? Which makes it more three-dimensional. Like this one too, like this little flowery element. Like I can just go, like, hi, oh, hi, oh, there you are, right? So now you have dimension. You're like coming into my picture, right? I could do this one. Like I could do a couple more, right? And then if I started a little, so this is very, what I call like light in my stirrups, right? Light in my slippers, right? Very gently asking for this removal here in these lines, right? But that totally made this whole area like come to life, right? Where it was kind of like flattened by that wax. All right. So same thing here. I can continue to kind of go back and forth between that pottery tool and this razor blade. Now I feel like I should do one more translucent layer to my warm side. So let me just scrape it one more second. And what do you guys think? Do you want more red or more yellow? And I like how these shapes overlap. Like I can see my circle here, right? You can see my semicircle here, which is nice. So I still really like this circle form over here. I could do another circle here. What do you guys think? What color? Red or yellow?
Red.
Red. Who said red?
Pam.
Red.
Oh my gosh, you guys are aligning against me. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Red. And look, I'm just like playing down here, but look, I made these cool sort of accidental black triangles right there, which are cool. I can kind of remove this, like, look, I just highlighted that whole little stem area then. And what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to set myself up to getting off this horse, right? And getting on the other horse. So what's the next horse I'm gonna get on after this? My what? My pigment stick, right? I'm gonna be like, later wax, later, I don't love you anymore, later. I'm gonna ride this other horse, right? So also like I can mess around a little bit by popping some of these black areas over here. Because this is like my little fantasy garden going on. All right, red. Where are we gonna put it? Where are you guys seeing the red? Talk to me about that. Where are you seeing the red? In this over here?
Yellow would be nice.
Oh boy. Now we have a divided party. Oh boy. Oh boy. I don't know.
Why not orange? Then split the difference.
Well, wait, first of all, can we just take a minute to revel in how much more depth this piece has now? Like night and day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like it was kind of cool. It was interesting. There was a lot happening. It was like graphic. But now, like, I don't even have my glasses on. But this whole dress form, I think this needs more color in here, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it needs, like, I always think about color being reflective, right? So if I'm outside at 8:30 in the summer and there's all this beautiful glowy light, if it's glowing over here, it's reflecting somewhere, right? So there should be like a little bit more glowy orange down here, don't you think? Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's do that first. That can come from my mess up tin, right? Which is mostly peachy mud now, but I'm gonna love this mud. It's gonna be my new favorite mud, right? So let me just kind of, so you see how I'm just kind of like toning this white so that it's not so just one shade of white, right? You think I need more? And also look, like right in here is a space, like that needs orange, right? So now I'm kind of like finessing my shape, right? By kind of like making it more believable, right? So that looks better, yes? Mm-hmm. Like the skirt isn't just one shade, it's just not just all bright white anymore, right? Now it looks like, all right, and then I should fuse it real quick, but I'm just gonna go ahead and scrape it because I don't want it to look just like forced on there. I want it to look like encaustic, right? So I'm just gonna use the razor blade. Also, this type of razor blade, do you guys see how I'm going like loosely, but I'm moving it freely? Do you guys see that? So that's kind of a fun technique. And that means I'm not forcing myself into the surface. I'm just letting the surface move me around, okay? So it's totally different than like forcing my way into there is this sort of like playfulness on top, right? It's totally different. Okay. So now technically like she's on this like black and orange wall, but in a way, the black is becoming more like shadowy, and maybe the wall or whatever this thing is orange. Or there's just like this gorgeous like sunset that she's walking into. I don't know, or Never Neverland right here. So red, where are we putting the red now? We could put it, okay, so maybe there's flowers here. I mean, is that what you guys are thinking? That this is a gradient from orange to red?
Well,
Up
could
there?
it be the shadow areas? And
It could be down here outside the dress.
that's what I was thinking.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go just with this red, the brick red, and I'm gonna go with my peachy, I'm gonna go with my peachy mud, right? So now and I'm also gonna use a little bit of this brown. It's just too, okay, so let's see. Let's see how translucent I can get it. And we'll do a test on the color, but I like the fact that I dulled it with the mud, right? I dulled down the red, and now it's actually a very pretty color, Pam. So thank you. Okay, so it's kind of like this. Do you see? Right? So I love my little test strips, right? You know I'm a photographer. I love my test strips. Okay, so I'm gonna put that over the dark areas. So we'll see. Oh, I think it's gonna look nice. And we can put a little bit over the orange. Oh, that's pretty. You see?
Yeah.
I could put it a little bit into the dress. And I'm not afraid to go too far, right? Because I know I can scrape it back. I'm gonna put a little bit, right? So translucent glazes, you guys, right? So kind of beautiful, right? And I should put a little bit of it over here, right? Is that enough? You guys, are you loving it? You're all quiet. You loving it? So, okay. Is it good? Right there? Too much? Not enough? Over here? It's like fire. It's like she's coming out of a fire now. What do you think? Good?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So it does look like a fire. Kind of, wow. It'll be cool. I'm gonna send you guys an email with the before and after of this piece, right? So let me fuse it. Now I'm gonna take it back a step. It's reminding me a little bit. I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna take it back a step just so that it looks integrated. And I'm gonna use that same, a couple tips on razor blades. If you don't have like a brand, box right here where you can constantly be getting a new one, you can pop these on the hot plate and just let the wax melt off. And then you just need like tweezers or even like something to pick them up, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna lightly, again, like this is like very light. This is a different type of razor blading than we did last week, right? So I'm just kind of very lightly, and yes, this is primarily a smooth surface. I wouldn't be able to do this same type of razor blading on a textured surface. However, if it was a very textured surface, I could do this type of razor blading, but only on the top surfaces, right? And because I'm painting on white encaustic and black, like I'm getting these nice, like true values of paint color underneath, right? And I'm really able to see, I mean, if you did this color on top of color, it would be happening just like it's happening now, but it would be a lot more subtle, right? The shifts between the color layers would just be more subtle, right? Okay, I think that's good. I think that's good. I think that looks natural and organic. I think the colors are nice. right? Okay. And then the next couple things I could
Big
do
difference.
would be I could do some type of shading with black and white pigment stick, right? To kind of, again, reiterate sort of my highlight areas. So I definitely want this shoulder area to be a highlight. Otherwise, her upper body has no form, right? So there's white pigment stick. I'm gonna put white in her body there. And then as far as the dress is concerned, I don't care if the white highlight hits here. I don't really want it to hit her behind. So I might just try to hit it like in the front, right? So that's so the light gets more attention, right? Because light areas of your composition always get the most attention, right? And then maybe like I need to lighten. So if this light's here, there's got to be light behind these things here too. So I want to keep the light sort of consistent. So maybe this gets lightened. Maybe something in here gets lightened, right? I just want the light to kind of travel across the canvas, right? From this way. So they're having like this conversation. All right. Any questions on translucent layering? And this could go on. Do you think this could go on for a long time?
Yeah.
Right. So I could do another layer of yellow. I mean, I'm happy with the way this turned out, right? And I just added some white here, but I don't like it, right? So, and now it looks like too overly painted. So again, like I'm gonna blend, right? I'm gonna just kind of blend the white. All right, you guys, it's 4 o'clock. I don't know how that happened. So let's do Q&A. Questions on today? I would love for you guys to try this. And if you want your work to stay monochromatic and not have a color glaze to it, you could do glazes in light brown, right? Or gray. Even glazes in gray can really show you, it can quiet down areas, right? And I would definitely try those handmade stencils because I think it's fun to play with shape, right? And sort of the shapes that you're drawn to. And look, I'm getting rid of that like perfect circle thing because I don't like it anymore. So I made that a little bit more regular, but I think that looks better. I just broke up my little arch over her head. And I also think that this is too solid. Do you guys agree? This doesn't make sense to me. Why does this not make sense to me? Why does this area like not make sense?
You need more light.
It's just too solid one color. It's the stop sign thing, right? So I could go lighter or darker, but I feel for some reason like I don't want to go lighter because if I went lighter, what would it compete with?
The dress.
The dress.
The dress and what? And also my little what? I love my little window. I love my little window, right? I created this beautiful little window. So I'm gonna do this. Pigment stick, right? Dark. And I'm just gonna explore what does this look like dark, right? And now that's like too dark, maybe, but I don't know. So now I can just kind of, but that's better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then I can play around with, right? It's getting there, it needs work. All right, so to be continued, to be continued. That's definitely better though. I mean, now I have to decide if there's something in that space or does that become a quiet space, right? So these are all decisions that you need to make. Quiet spaces in encaustic pieces, I think, are very important, right? I think the subject matter and a space that's like draws you in is very interesting. I think that's important. But I also really think that quiet spaces in encaustics are important too. So where's my quiet space gonna be? Okay, questions? Questions on how to prepare translucent glaze. I recommend making some colors that you like and testing them to see how translucent they are, right? So translucency is basically created by how much wax medium versus how much paint, right? And I use like very, very little paint. I would say like 9-to-1. Okay, if we had to do a ratio. You can translucent glaze over dark colors equally as effective as you can over light colors, right? It's not like a light color only type of thing, which we saw, right? We saw adding red over the black, right? So try both. Also try making some fun handmade stencil shapies, right? And if you're doing like a specific thing, like a bouquet or a woman, you could kind of like, you know, eyeball trace her and make a shape that kind of resembles her, and then mask around her could be fun. I think it's nice to split the canvas though. I don't know if you guys have been noticing that, but it's twice. I split the canvas, right? Light side, dark side. You could also split this canvas. I'm a vertical shooter. I think it's just like my brain. But also you guys could split the canvas horizontally, light and dark, right? And I don't think there's a right and wrong. Like sometimes the road is light and the sky is dark, and sometimes the sky is light and the right. So they can go, there's no, it doesn't have to be anything. But splitting the canvas I think is also helpful. Okay. You're welcome, Bonnie. I am happy to email with you later today or you know, over the weekend. And anybody else, if you guys have questions, if you worked in a color or if you want to try another piece, you can start working on another piece. I'm open to next week. I think we had left it open. So I'm open to talking about, I felt like we were kind of heading in the direction of talking about texture, since we've been talking a little bit more about smooth. So do I have a show of hands? How many people are interested in learning more about texture?
I am.
Yes.
Is that everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Next week we'll focus on inlay, and onlay, my new word, onlay, right? So in and on. Okay, and vice versa, like in versus on. Okay, so and we can just stick to monotone or two-tone. We can use two colors. It's fine either way. Plus the medium. Okay.
And what time is class next week?
Oh yes, thank you. Next week, tricky. Next week is our trick day. So next week's in the morning. 10 to 12.
10 to 12.
10 to 12.
And you know what that is, Pacific Standard Time?
Yes.
3 hours earlier.
Yes, 7 in the morning. Are you gonna come? Are you gonna get
My
up?
hair done or makeup on.
That's fine. Come in your pajamas, drink your coffee.
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry. I get up every day at 6:45. I'm sorry. It's either that or we have to wait 2 weeks. But I think we should just go for the morning. Yeah, we don't want to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll see
I'm
you.
not a good sleeper.
Well, then we'll entertain you, and then you can take a nap. We'll wear you out. Make you tired, and then you'll want to go back to sleep. All right, I'll send everybody the recording from today.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for being here.
Have a good
Thank
week.
you.
I'll send you
Bye.
a photo. Okay, you too. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, be safe. Bye.
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 Bye.